In this video, we are going to see a small example of how we can generate classification data using an inbuilt method called make_classification inside Scikit-learn library. So here is the question. Make a classification data using make_classification with two features, two classes and one cluster per class. So we are going to first import necessary libraries from sklearn.datasets. Import make_classification. Let's run this cell, and when I say make_classification, you have all this information. Okay, so by default n_samples is 100 because they did not mention the sample size. I'm assuming it is default, which is 100, so there is no need to mention that. And then there is something called as n_features, which I think I will write it as 2, and then we have classes 2, so n_classes is equal to 2, and one cluster per class, so n_clusters underscore per class is equal to 1. Okay, and I'll run this cell, and I got an error which says number of informative, redundant and repeated features. Informative, redundant and repeated features must sum to less than number of total features. Okay, so total features is equal to what? Our requirement is 2 features, right? No, okay, fine. Then okay, let me write this as n_features. n_features is 2, and then they are saying n_informative, okay, and then n_redundant. n_redundant is equal to, you don't know the number, we'll find out. n_repeated, you don't know the number. Now they are saying number of informative, redundant and repeated, the sum of these three. Okay, sum of these three okay should be less than number of features, that is n_features. Fine. So let's see what are the default values. So make_classification and see what are the default values. Default values for n_informative is 2, okay, and n_redundant is 2, repeated is 0. So informative is 2, redundant is 2 and repeated is 0. So this is 2, this is default value, this is 2, which is again default value, and this is 0, which is again default value. Okay, let's check this again. 2, 2 and 0. Fine. Now here what we got is we had 2 plus redundant was 2 plus repeated was 0, which was not less than 2, which was greater than 2. That's why we are having error, right? So this is 4, 4 is not less than 2, it is greater than 2. So that's why error was thrown at here. So all we need to do is modify this. So So what we can modify, we cannot modify this, right? N underscore features we cannot modify. We want two features. We cannot modify number of classes, which is 2. We cannot modify number of clusters per class. Now what we have to do is we have to change any of the 3 here. So what is n underscore informative? N underscore informative are the useful features. The meaning of n underscore informative is the useful features. So you have a requirement of 2 features, right? Now how many of them you want to be useful features? How many of them you want to be redundant? And how many of them you want to repeat it? That's all the 3 of them. So what is redundant? See, let's say here is a small table and you're trying to predict the weight based on the height. Okay, here height is in centimeters, and so this height column is the height in centimeters. Here the height column is in feet, the same height in feet. Now this height in feet is said to be redundant feature because you already have height. So if you see the linear relation, it would be this column, the values of in this column, if you multiply, probably if you divide by 0.833, you get these values, because if you 1 centimeter is 0.833 feet, I guess. So these two are linearly dependent, and these two are linearly dependent features, and this is redundant. So this is the redundant thing. Sometimes you want to repeat the features, you can do that, but we don't want any repeated features. We don't want any redundant. We want both our features to be informative. So what I'm going to do is add this n underscore redundant to be 0. Here let me add n underscore features to be redundant, comma, and anyways I want this to be 0, repeated n underscore repeated. Anyways n underscore repeated default value is 0, so I don't need to do anything about it. So let me run this and see what happens. Now I got this data. Now let me save it to x and y. Okay, now let's see what x dot shape is. So x dot shape is of 100 rows with 2 features. Okay, and what about y dot shape? It's 100, a column vector of 100 values. And let's see what type of x and type of y. And these are numpy arrays. So we have generated the classification data, and it says plot scatter plot of the classification data. Okay, so let me import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Matplotlib dot, okay, one second. Import matplotlib.pyplot as plt, run the cell, and we'll say plt.scatter, and we are going to use first feature all rows and first column. I mean x is all rows and first feature, first column, that's what it is, comma x of all rows and the second column. And I want to use the c is equal to y here. Y is a variable, right? Y, based on the labels of y, I want to classify this data. Let's run and see what happens here. There you go. So this is a classification data. Now if you again rerun this, okay, if you rerun this, and if you rerun this plot again, you'll get different kinds of data. So intrinsically you're getting the data, generating data is generated, and that generated data is random. So what we did, let's quickly review. We have used make underscore classification method to generate classification data, and make underscore classification has several inputs as parameters based on the requirements of number of features, number of samples, and the features of which how many you want to be informative or useful, which would mean useful features, how many would you want to be redundant, okay, and how many you want to repeat them. Based on that, you can modify the inputs, which are the parameters. Also you can pick up the number of classes you can use, that you need, number of clusters per class, and you can set a random state to, and then you can assign this to x and y. That's what we did, and we checked all the shapes, types, and everything. Then we imported matplotlib.pyplot module library, and we plotted the x, the first column, and the second column, first feature, second feature, based on the values of the labels. I have plotted a scatter plot.